Hi everyone, it's been a while since I've uploaded a video to this channel, so let's take a look at this Facebook video clip from Liz Wheeler of Tipping Point. It's got 1.5 million views and the subject matter is 8 COVID-19 studies the mainstream media won't report. Take it away, Liz.
Number 1. On the Diamond Princess cruise ship, 3,711 passengers were tested for COVID-19. 17% of them, 634 total, were infected. But 328 of those 634 people who tested positive were asymptomatic.
Actually, this story was widely reported by the mainstream media. The Washington Post, the Daily Mail, Fox News, and even CNN all covered the results of testing on the Diamond Princess cruise ship, and all noted the large number of asymptomatic cases. Most news outlets quoted a CDC report on the matter, and CNN went with the headline, "Nearly half of Diamond Princess cruise ship passengers and crew who had coronavirus were asymptomatic when tested," CDC report says. So it was hardly buried in their story.
Number 2, likewise, in Iceland, 50% of people who were tested and who tested positive for COVID-19 in a nationwide sample study were asymptomatic.
And I'll have to interrupt Liz again here because the results of antibody testing in Iceland and the reports that many cases might be asymptomatic was also reported in lots of mainstream outlets like The Sun, the Daily Mail, Fox News, and of course CNN. So what about the third study?
Number 3, in Vote, Italy, antibody tests there showed almost 50% of people who tested positive for COVID-19 never had symptoms.
Mass testing in this small Italian town and the subsequent reports that most of the people with the infection were asymptomatic has been covered by Fox News. It's been in The Guardian and Newsweek and Al Jazeera and many other mainstream news outlets. So let's move on to the fourth study that the mainstream media is apparently failing to report.
Number 4, a COVID-19 antibody test on a randomized sample of the population in the German town of Gangelt, which is one of the epicenters of the COVID-19 outbreak in that country, showed a 15% infection rate.
This story of antibody testing in Gangelt was covered by The Sun, The National, The Spectator, The Daily Mail, Bloomberg, and The Telegraph. But what about number 5?
Number 5, in New York City, right here in the United States, 29 of 210 asymptomatic pregnant women admitted to the hospital at the end of March and early April to deliver their babies tested positive for COVID-19. That's a 13.7% infection rate of entirely asymptomatic people.
This research, which found a large number of asymptomatic pregnant women in New York City, has been reported on by a large number of news organizations, and I even found this clip of the dreaded Rachel Maddow discussing these findings just a couple of days ago. And so far, this really isn't shaping up very well for Liz Wheeler.
Number 6, a study in Germany by a virologist named Professor Hendrik Streeck at the University of Bonn concludes that COVID-19 rarely spreads through casual contact. It spreads through repeated large doses, such as among families while locked down together.
Remarks from Professor Hendrik Streeck regarding the infectivity of coronavirus have been widely reported in the media. He's been quoted in The Telegraph, The New York Times, and The Daily Mail. The quote that Liz Wheeler has used here is very misleading, though. Here's what he actually said. "There is no significant risk of catching the disease when you go shopping. Severe outbreaks of the infection were always a result of people being closer together over a longer period of time. For example, the après-ski parties in Ischgl, Austria." Liz Wheeler's quote made it sound like sheltering in place increases the risk of virus transmission, and that's very clearly not what he said or how he intended to be understood. The dynamic social interaction that happens at a ski resort is very different to how people are being asked to behave under lockdown.
Number 7, a study from the Taiwan CDC from March 19th tracked 1,000 contacts of 32 people with COVID-19 and found 0 cases of transmission outside households or families.
So I'm going to have to hand this one to Liz. This study was not reported by the mainstream media, so maybe she could change the title of her report to "One COVID-19 Study That the Mainstream Media Did Not Report." Now, I wasn't really expecting to find this, but now I suppose I'll have to answer the questions that linger. What did this study show and why wasn't it reported? Well, the title of the paper is "High Transmissibility of COVID-19 Near Symptom Onset." And here's what the authors concluded. High transmissibility of COVID-19 near symptom onset suggests that finding and isolating symptomatic patients alone may not suffice to contain the epidemic, and more generalized social distancing measures are required. Rapid reduction of transmissibility over time implies that prolonged hospitalization of mild cases might not be necessary in large epidemics. So why wasn't this study reported? Well, presumably because it was a small study that didn't show anything remarkable in the context of many other studies that showed the same thing. There are 24,000 results for the search term COVID-19 transmission in Google Scholar, so don't expect them all to be front page on CNN. The paper reported that no one but family and household members caught the disease, although for some reason they classified a healthcare worker as a household member. Exactly why isn't clear to me. Anyway, it's not a remarkable or unusual observation. The chances of passing on the disease to someone whilst you're out shopping are individually rare, but certainly not impossible, and once it does happen, the person who catches it is subsequently very likely to infect their entire household. And that's why so many countries have implemented social distancing. Stopping just one rare transmission at a cafe can stop the virus ripping through a large household, care home, or even an aircraft carrier. So how about the last study?
Number 8. Finally, a Danish study of 1,487 blood donors found 22 had antibodies for COVID-19 in their blood. And if you extrapolate that rate to the population of Denmark and divide it by the number of people who've died of COVID-19 in Denmark, that equals a case fatality rate of 0.16%, or 1.6 people per thousand, or 20 times lower than the case fatality rate we were told by the World Health Organization.
Okay, so I guess this one also goes to Liz. So she's got an impressive hit rate of 25% because this interview in Danish wasn't picked up by a great many news outlets. I can't imagine why. I have to say I'm not sure this can be described as a study anyway. The estimated case fatality rate is based on a number of tenuous assumptions, and Henrik Ullum, who made these assumptions, said the figures should be read with caution. At least that's what Google Translate says. But if Liz is trying to imply here that the media has shied away from reporting low case fatality rates, she's surely mistaken. The Daily Beast, the Washington Post, CNN, and the New York Post all reported on the 0.66% case fatality rate estimated by researchers at Imperial College London. And most media reporting has correctly identified the difficulties in making any accurate estimate of the case fatality at this point in time. Now, the reason I sat down and recorded this video is because I thought it was quite funny. 1.5 million people have seen this, and many have left shocked comments about how devious the mainstream media is in concealing these studies. I think there's something quite ironic going on here, though. Only people living in a conspiracy black hole of terrible news sources like Tipping Point would actually find any of this stuff surprising. If you refuse to watch or read CNN or MSNBC or any other mainstream media, you're going to find yourself continuously blindsided by all the things that Liz tells you that they're not reporting, when they actually are. If you think the lockdown is draconian or unnecessary, which is what Liz is trying to imply here, I would love to hear your arguments, but boosting videos like this one is only going to make you look ignorant. So that's all I have time for today. I didn't want to miss out on a chance to make a COVID-19 video. If you enjoyed this one, check out some of the other videos on my channel, and if you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe, of course.